guys, welcome to another video slash live stream. Purple Political Talk here. So today's gonna be a really fun occasion. And I'm really excited for this. I'm gonna try to get the live stream game up little by little until we have our big election night live stream next year. That's looking way too far in advance, but that's what we want to do. So today is going to be just one of my old, I don't know if you guys remember, if you've been a long time viewer, you probably do. One of my old Purple Political Talk live streams that I used to do every week. I want to start getting back into that rhythm, into having just a weekly sit down with my subscribers, and we can discuss all things politics, through the chat. We could go do some more election predictions and, just see where the live stream takes us. So with that being said, I wanted to remind you guys to like, subscribe, turn on post notifications if you yet haven't done so, but I think that all of you that are in the chat right now probably have. So thank you guys so much for that. But if you haven't, please take a look at it. So what we're basically, I wanted to, start by talking in this live stream was, I wanted to start talking about Donald Trump. And realistically, what is Donald Trump's possibilities in 2024? I'm starting to get a couple messages into the chat. We have Soapmore here. We have Purple. Well, yeah, that's me. Political Playground here. We have Progressive Rising. Thank you so much for coming. Patriot again. Thank you guys so much for coming. Going back to what I wanted to discuss, you guys, and I want to see what you guys think. So tell me what you guys think down in the chat. Where do you think Donald Trump currently stands at a political level? What should be his next move? Should he retire? Maybe he should just pass on the baton to someone else. Should he run for House in Florida? That's one of the things that a lot of people have been really adamant about with Donald Trump. He should maybe run for House in Florida, and then he could become the Speaker of the House. I'm one of those people who really don't think he should do that. I honestly think that it really comes down to the fact that if he does that, he's not going to have a road to the presidency. And I think it would be much more interesting to see Donald Trump in the presidency than seeing him as Speaker of the House. I mean, Speaker of the House, it's still a pretty big job. And with Donald Trump there, it's going to be interesting. However, I don't think for Trump personally, if I was Trump, I wouldn't run for House because it's not really what his, character type's job would be. Trump isn't the type of person to go and negotiate things, on behalf and go sit down at the table with Biden after what happened with the election. I mean, not to say that Nancy Pelosi didn't, have her fair share of stuff on, when Trump was in office, that she didn't meet with him. But, that congressional relationship is important. And I think it sort of could be a little bit of a dangerous thing. So here we have Progressive Rising, who says, I think Trump should retire and pass on the baton to a new generation. So I think that, maybe there's a couple of things that could go well with that. I mean, I think the biggest thing would be that Trump will become more of a political operative in a way, instead of, the politician himself. One of the things I really think about Trump is, at a political level, as the candidate, the person you're voting for, he does turn away a lot of independent voters. And it's crucially important to, get those independent voters to vote for you. Because if you don't, what ends up happening? You lose them away. It's going to be hard to gain them back. And I think at the end of the day, the Republican Party today needs a lot of turnout, first of all. But I think most importantly than anything, what they really, really do need is, strong candidates from the bottom up. Trump is a great leader for them, but then you have to also think, how is that going to impact them? And I think, of course, there will be certain implications for them, because it's not that simple, having Donald Trump there. And I think one of the big things also we have to think about is all of this mess that happened, after Trump lost his election. I can't get into, a lot of that in this video just because of YouTube's rules, but I will just say that all of that at the end of his presidency really, really, it damaged him at a level that a lot of viewers are going to really be affected. Let me see what I see some here's. Matt Fosella says Trump will win for the third time. Again, getting back to what I was talking about, I can't really get into the second election, but in the third election, if he does run, I think he has a high chance of winning just based on party fatigue for the Democrats. I think it also a lot of different things that really, that are affecting politics today. I think it comes without saying that if the mainstream of the Democratic Party shifts from Biden and Harris to AOC and Rashida Tlaib, I don't think that fundamental change is going to happen. In the case that it does, consider it game over for Democrats. Democrats will not be able to win, a lot of the important Senate seats. Forget about winning the White House in 2024. And until they change their ideology in the future. Politics made simple. What's up? Let's see. If Trump runs in 2024, then 2028 DeSantis could run for president. I think that this is something that could realistically happen. I think the big thing for DeSantis could be that being the successor to Trump. Now, here's what I think, though. I think it might be in the best interest of the Republicans to not run Trump in 2024 for one reason. That reason being that if they run him in 2024, come 2028, there will be fatigue for him. So then that comes into question. Well, are we willing to risk Ron DeSantis losing just because we want Trump in office? And I think for the Republicans, strategically, it might be smarter. Let's run DeSantis, for the first time. He wins probably re-election in 2028. And this is all assuming that DeSantis wins, which I think is likely if he does run. So I think it's something that's going to be interesting. Rank the political parties. There's only two. That would be a very boring video. I think that right now, as it stands, I think just looking at the parties and where they are right now, the Republicans have a little bit more of an idea of what they're doing. The Democrats are just falling behind at a level that they're divided and they have no clear agenda. It's just everyone's agenda is being thrown around. Let's do this. No, let's do that. It's a big complete hot mess. While the Republicans, they have their agenda, and I'm going to say I agree with a lot of Republican points, while I do agree also with a lot of Democratic points. But I think at this point, if it was up to me, I was an independent voter, I would have a little bit more trust in the Republican Party, basing off of how, organized their party control is right now. Let's see. So, Doug, I see that you kind of touched on the Cuban situation, and I want to talk about that right now. Going forward, I think that a lot of people are going to have a tough time handling, I guess, the reality about Cuba. You see, Cuba is a very big, complex, issue at a geopolitical level. Like, you have how Cuba affects South and Latin America and Central America. The Cuban government has a lot of influences in places like Nicaragua and Venezuela and Argentina. They're starting to gain a lot of presence in those countries. And it's pretty much socialism, communism. It's the Communist Party of Cuba trying to spread with socialism as their, little cover. Now, with the Cuban protests going on, which I'm going to say, the people in Cuba are very brave because in Cuba, no one's allowed to bear arms. It's illegal, actually, to have arms. Like, it's illegal. A lot of those protesters are going in not knowing what they're doing, and they're going out and fighting for their freedom. And I think as a country, as the U.S., no matter if you're a Democrat or a Republican, you should also we should give our support to those protesters who are trying to get away from a 60-year regime. Those regimes have been there forever, and I think maybe it's time for change for Cuba. And I think that it's unfortunate that a lot of the things that have happened because of the pandemic, and then the government being there for so long and being so corrupt in those things. And this gets more into, we're going to get into this maybe later or in another video, into the socialism debate. There's certain types of socialism, because there's different types that do have merit. In the way that, the way I would like to point at it is, if you go back and think about Ross Perot's, I would say that Ross Perot, he by no means was a socialist, but he had policies that had the economy in mind, making sure that our economy was back and strong, while still having some social aspects that would impact the way that Americans, lived, and kind of lifting the quality of life for all Americans. You see, the sort of socialism that we're seeing being proposed with a lot of these proposals from AOC and all these people. I think it's going to be interesting to see if this Cuban, affair right now that we're seeing is going to have a deep impact. And I think for the Democrats, if they don't start, isolating themselves from socialist message, places like Florida, long gone. Probably going to see places like Texas, probably long gone too. And then that's going to spread around. Let me see the chat. I kind of went a little bit into a little bit of not a ramble. Let's call it a ramble. Let me see. Louise asks, if Trump runs again, will he win in the general election? So I think that it depends who the candidate is. If it's a Biden, I don't think so. I think he would lose to Biden again. Yet again, we have to remember that the 2020 race was very tight. And usually the second time around, politicians get reelected by less. So that's something we should definitely analyze. Now, the other thing I want to discuss is to what point is the last couple of days of his presidency going to have an impact on him? I think at a political level, I mean, whether you agree with it or not, I think that the political reality of it is that January 6th is going to live with Trump forever, and with independents especially, it's going to end up really, really damaging his possibilities, right, of being able to go on and win those independents. Independents are the key to elections. I think that there's no other way to say it, that without the independent vote, you're going to lose elections. Without that independent support, everything's completely out the window. So I think that I'm not really sure. Progressive Rising, I forgot Lopez Obrador. Thank you, LTP, for coming in. Let me see. Oh, God. I'm falling behind in the chat, so I'm going to have to, come back. So should have came. Okay, so going back a little bit, I can't get into the election question if it was stolen or not. As much as I would love to discuss it with you guys, I really can't because of YouTube's guidelines. So I want you guys to really think about that on your own. So yeah. Okay. Memester boy, I agree with this. I think that for the Republican Party, moving forward, DeSantis might be the best bet. No political baggage like Trump does have. I mean, he has little scandals there, but every politician has scandals. And I mean, other than that, if I'm thinking of it, yeah, I mean, he doesn't have anything completely wrong with him, to the point that voters in the suburbs and in the urban areas are really going to go we're staunchly against Trump. One of the big things that lost Trump the election is the fact that he unfortunately did not appeal to suburban voters. And so appealing to suburban voters in this present day of age where the suburbs have become such an important part of American politics, you can't get that support, you're going to lose elections. And I think that's why moving forward, building those margins is going to be important. So I think that moving forward, something else is going to be. And I'm going to tell you something else. DeSantis is extremely popular with a lot of different groups. He doesn't have the same Trump populist appeal. And I think that I had seen a question here about populism. I think I'm going to have skipped it. But populism is going to be a huge deciding factor as well. People think about suburbs. People say, oh, the minority vote. They think about all these different things. But I think that really it comes down to the populist vote against the establishment. So, I really think that the big thing is that the populist, no matter if it's the left or the right, populism is popular, hence its name. So I think that moving forward, if you're a populist candidate, let's suppose we have a super establishment Republican. Let's suppose that Liz Cheney runs for the White House, and her opponent is someone like Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders could actually win that race because of the populism, and I think I've gotten into this in certain videos, that populism, has brought people like Bernie Sanders and Trump a degree closer, and they might be closer politically than you guys might think. Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump, they have similar ideas in what they want to do with the country. They want to build up the economies, whether it be in different ways, but that's what they want to do. They want to, build the country up so everyone has a better private economy. Now, the way you get there is the big question that divides the left and the right. But the ideology that, are going to appeal to these people by telling them, well, we're going to bring the jobs back, we're going to give you healthcare or these things like that, that is what populism is at its core. Let me see. So LTP, I don't think I will be doing those. If I do, I will let you guys know, and I'll send a link out for the people that could join. So yeah, progressive rising. I think that you make a very good point here with the suburbs are becoming more diverse. And I think that at the end of the day, that's really going to end up somewhat costing the Democrats. But then also you have to think up to what level is that really going to be affecting the Republicans? Because we can't fail to acknowledge the fact that the Republicans have gained in certain ways some support amongst minorities. And I think as we see the Democratic Party's base shift, as the establishment shifts from, the Pelosi's probably to the next generation, which is probably someone like Hakeem Jeffries, and then probably even further in the future to someone like an AOC who would lead the Democratic Party in a lot of these levels, that's going to become unpopular, and certain suburban voters are not going to like that. Let me see. With Biden or Trump in your poll, who do you want to win, or who do you think will win? By this I mean, who do you think you win, LTP? The only left-wing population I could think about is Sanders, Fetterman, Sherrod Brown, and Warren, maybe. So I think that's actually an interesting list of candidates. Who could be a good running mate on a hypothetical DeSantis ticket to win the general election? So I've actually been thinking about this lately because, it's probably someone who a lot of people do not see coming. It's probably going to be somewhat, lesser known governor. So let me actually put your question up. So who do I think that could be? I think there's a couple of candidates. I think that he should choose a woman based on, identity politics. And I think, unfortunately, as bad as identity politics is, I think it's just a necessary move. And, I think maybe there's Republican women who have more than enough talent to, win politically. So my answer to that question, I would say either someone like a Kristi Noem, I think would be a great candidate for VP. He could go that route and, kind of go full on populist, Republican. He could pick someone like probably Kim Reynolds or Joni Ernst, similar to what Trump wanted to do. I think that actually might be something that would be smart for him, because I think that he needs to appeal to that certain region of the country a little bit better. And someone like Joni Ernst is someone who could definitely help him out in that region. And then if he wants to go with someone down south who can really essentially help him out with the Sun Belt, I think that he should go with someone like maybe a Kimberly Yee. That would be a very interesting like running mate. She's a rising star, I guess. She's still is not like, I guess, in the mainstream because she's running for governor, but that would be a good person. And then the other person I would say, if this would be my pick, and it's because I really like this person as a politician. I think they're great. Maria Elvira Salazar. She, I think, is a great congresswoman, but then there's still that dilemma. Someone would have to move or something to make that happen because they're both from Florida. So those are the ones that I think could run. So thank you for the question. Progressive rising, good point. Trump did gain a lot of support from Latinos. Mostly it was from Cubans, who we're actually seeing protests right now against socialism, and Mexican Americans down in the border in Texas. So I think that's one of the big, things we have to think about the Latino support that Trump gained. What politicians do not have scandals? Whether it is big, small, minute, or gigantic, all politicians have scandals. I mean, the easy answer to that would be brand new politicians, freshman members of Congress, like that are being elected for the first time. I would say that's me. I mean, generally speaking, I think the big politicians have little baggage. I would say, but I mean, there's a lot of them. The people I was thinking, like someone like an Amy Klobuchar, she has baggage. I mean, everyone has baggage, so this is a question that really cannot be answered. Let me see. Will DeSantis win in 2024 if he chooses Trump as a running mate? I think that actually DeSantis, it's not in his best interest to choose Trump as a running mate. Running mates, is more of a secondary role in a presidency and on a campaign ticket. Trump is either at the top of the ticket or at the bottom. So I don't think that he could really, he can't really be in that position. Yeah, progressive rising. That's kind of what I said about Martius Elvira Salazar. I'm going through the chat. Let me see. Oh yeah, unless Trump changes residency to New York, because again, Trump is from Florida, so that's something they would have to think about. Let me see. What stream app are you using? How did you get the words to bottom to move? Oh, I'm using StreamYards, but yeah, I think you have to get the premium version of StreamYards, so you have like some added benefits and so it makes the stream look better. So StreamYards is great for starting out. And if you're gonna get into live streaming, I recommend using StreamYards. And if you can, upgrade to premium so you have more features. Let me see. What do you think about there is a Red Scare 2.0? I think there might be a Red Scare 2.0. I think that something that should be taking a look at, and I think our government should work at a certain level to, lower down the possible risk and mitigate those risks. Okay. No one cares about January 6th except Northern Virginia. If Democrats run in 2022 or January 6th Republicans would win in all the swing states. I think that's actually interesting. I think that January 6th Republicans would, I don't think it's going to be a positive thing if they ran that style of Republican. They need to run more people who have the populist ideas, but they're not too Trump crazy. I think that one of the things that really would help the Republican Party is having the same ideas of Trump, but isolating itself a little bit from Trump the person. Great people who I think kind of show that example. Maria Elvira Salazar, someone like Nancy Mace or Ashley Hinson. They're more moderate in a way, they're more moderate in how they present themselves as politicians, but their ideologies are actually a lot further right, as a lot of people would be surprised. Let me see. Can AOC win in 2024? I don't think so. I think what's really going to impact her is the Democratic Socialist movement, and that's going to be a hard victory for her to win. Donald Trump said his top two running mates are DeSantis and Candace Owens. He said that he would prefer DeSantis over Owens. Candace Owens would never be a Trump running mate. Never in a million years. I think that she's just not ready. She's well prepared in a way. She's done her research and stuff, but probably not to the level of becoming a running mate. As for DeSantis, someone would have to change their residency or something so they could do that. That would be interesting. But I think that DeSantis himself is someone who's better again at the top of the ticket as vice president. No, I cannot build my own StreamYard company. LTP, I think it's $20 a month, but I'm not sure. You can go on their website. They have it there. What are possible Republican candidates to win a gubernatorial race in Pennsylvania? This is a great question because I'm not completely sure. I think with the gubernatorial race in Pennsylvania, although the Republicans are trying to really make it close, the big reality, I think, is that even though if they try, which you're going to try, you don't want to lose gubernatorial races like that. It's not good. They're going to try, and I think they're going to fail because there's really no good Republicans to the point they could win these races. You could say someone like a Pat Toomey, but again, he doesn't want to do anything with politics anymore. He's retiring. I think that the Republicans are probably going to end up running someone like Sean Purnell. They're going to lose. That's actually not that concrete. I think that Sean Purnell has a good chance of, getting the populist support down in a certain part of Pennsylvania, towards the Scranton area and through Erie County. I think they could do well there, but I think that's probably where they're going to run. So that's a question I really can't answer because I'm not sure either. There's no really good candidates, I would say. Let me see. I think that Biden can still win Georgia even with the voting bill. Yes, I agree. Oh, hold on. Let me show your comment. I do think that. I think that Biden can still win in Georgia. Okay, getting into the topic of voting bills, this is something that I'm not that like. I don't understand why the Democrats are like so going insane about this. I understand the historical voter suppression and a lot of that stuff, but I think a lot of those messages are really not they're not true because I mean it's like voter ID I think is okay. You have to in certain ways make sure that people are who they say they are. And I think why would voter ID be considered like, some like out of the blue? Like I think that voter ID is pretty simple. I mean, almost everyone has driver's license. Not everyone. If not, a lot of people have passports or they have some other form of government ID. I mean, it's not that difficult, and I think at the end of the day, it's not really as a big deal as a lot of people think. So I think that moving forward, that's something that people should definitely think about, because I think it's also ridiculous the fact that in Texas, we're seeing literally state representatives flee the state of Texas going to DC for no reason because they want to block the voting bill. And I mean, this also starts getting into the cancel culture that we're seeing. Companies, MLB, moving out of Georgia because of the voting bill. I found it completely ridiculous because they're really not doing anything to the point that that you literally have to, like the voting bill is not as bad, and I think it's actually necessary. So I think that's something that a lot of people are talking about. Let's see, is Michigan getting more red? I think Michigan is getting more blue. I agree with LTP there. Okay, very good question from Ed. Which party do I think will win the 2022 midterms? I'm guessing the Democrats will be because the economy will be number one issue. I disagree with that. I mean, what you classify as the midterms, I think the midterms are going to be similar to 2018 in a way, where you're going to see the Republicans make huge gains in the House. They're only 10 seats away. They could probably get that like with the present map right now. Plus, we have to remember that there's a new redistricting. So there's going to be new seats. There's going to be new everything. So that's up for grabs. And I think at a certain perspective, I think that the economy really is not as good as we think right now. I mean, the economy in a way is deceitful because, sure, GDP is up. Stock markets seem to be up. But what's happening? We have inflation rates that we haven't seen in like the last couple of years. Everything is through the roof. That's why real estate prices are high. That's why the price of certain goods are higher. And the economic shortage, I don't think, is a good sign of a good economy. The economy is booming, but it's also because its money is being injected through stimulus, through a lot of more tax credits and stuff, which is necessary because if not, our economy would be in ruins today. But unemployment as well. The big thing I think we have to think about the economy is how are jobs? Jobs are there's a job deficit. And unfortunately, I don't think until the unemployment is lifted, the economy is going to go back to its full potential. That will cost the Democrats. (2024) Texas Senate, Ted Cruz versus Julian Castro. I think Julian Castro actually has a pretty good chance of winning this race, especially with Ted Cruz's shady business as senator. I don't think it's likely. If you give it more time, I think in the next cycle, 2030, that would be for that seat. Yeah, 2030, I think that could happen. Let me see. I think Biden won't win in Georgia with the voting bill. The voting bill, I don't think really will have as big impacts as people think. The only thing that will have impact is if Democrats literally say boycott the election because you're being suppressed by the vote because there's this voting bill. I don't think it's going to happen. I think it's going to be somewhere similar. Let me see. Progressive rising, I do agree with this. That would be a great way to require ID, but then make it in a way that's more fair in a way. I agree with this. That makes sense. Okay, let's see. Money talks, yeah, and the days when large corporations sided with the G are long gone. Yeah, I think that the days that the corporations sided with the G are long gone for one reason. That reason being that the general pop culture, I think the popular culture is towards the Democratic Party. I think that it comes down to the fact that it's become more a thing of, is there more or less? Because realistically, it's split 50-50. The country is divided down the middle. What's happened is that the Democrats can scream louder. Have you ever heard that that phrase that says like, oh, just because you're screaming louder doesn't mean that you're right? I think there's one of those it's sort of like that. Because the Democrats are being louder doesn't mean that they're the outright majority and that these companies should be, putting everything on a silver platter for them. So I think that's something that should be said. Do you know anything about India? Because someone asked me how do I compare Indian politics to American politics? I know a little bit about Indian politics. Indian politics are actually, again, it's very divided based on, a lot of parties that are there with a lot of different views. What I do understand is that they currently have a populist president in Narendra. I don't remember his name, but I think it's near down, something like that. Someone's gonna have to fact check me on that, but it's a very interesting thing. So you should actually Google that and research it. I agree with this. Republicans will win House, Democrats will the Senate. I think the Senate will be close. I think it's really between probably 49-51 in favor of the Democrats, and it could range to, I would say, 52-48 in favor of the Republicans. Let me see. Okay, thoughts on Wisconsin race for senator. I think that at the end of the day, and governor as well, Ron Johnson's going to run. I think a lot of people are underestimating Ron Johnson when it comes to what an incumbent could do. I mean, his biggest opponent in that race would be Sarah Goldwaski. And to be frank, I think that it's going to be tough for them to beat him. I think that, it's a possibility, but he's incumbent senator. He still has support in, the Republicans still have a big base of support in Wisconsin. So I think he should be fine. And as far as the race for governor, I think Tony Evers will also hold on very narrowly to his seat. I think a lot of people have been saying that, oh, he's unpopular, he's all of that. But I think at the end of the day, what a lot of people don't realize is, again, incumbency matters. And I think for Tony Evers is going to end up helping him. They've been doing this thing where they broke out whole states at least since 2016. Yes, and it comes back to cancel culture. And I think cancel culture is ridiculous. There's a difference between cancel culture and calling out people when they deserve to be called out for something that was completely out of line. I think that's a thing a lot of companies do not realize. Let me see. Out of any past presidential candidates who didn't win the general election, who do you think would have been the best president? Easy question, and it's someone you guys wouldn't expect because they're a third-party candidate, and that is Ross Perot. I think that Ross Perot would have been a beautiful president in the United States. Why? Because he would have, shaken up the die with the political system. I think if Ross Perot was president, we wouldn't have, I think we would have a bunch of little fringe parties and then, a little bit more of the main coalitions. Now, I also think Ross Perot was a very smart guy. He would have done a lot of things that Trump would have done with the economy while still focusing on things like healthcare and things like that were important for a lot of people. So I think that is one of the presidential candidates that I think would have been a beautiful president. And I think for the times, just seeing what we got from from Bill Clinton compared to what we could have gotten with Ross Perot, I think it kind of it kind of goes down a little bit. Let's see. Could we have a second runoff scenario in 2022 if Republicans have 50 seats and Democrats have 49 and no one won a majority in Georgia? I think we can definitely see that. How likely is that of happening? I would say that Raphael Warnock, we also have to remember, he is the incumbent. So, again, slight edge just because of incumbency. We could probably see that. I would say that my prediction for that race this far out would probably be 50% Democrats win outright, 25% Republicans win outright, 25% goes to runoffs, and then the Democrats win. European politics versus American politics. American politics, 100%, because it's more of a whole system. European politics is just so messy. I don't like this. I don't like I like researching it and I like listening to what's going on, but it's too complicated for me to follow. You agree the Republicans will win the House by 4 more than Democrats, while the Democrats take the Senate. I mean, the individual numbers are really hard to tell, though. Because, one, we don't have House maps. Two, we don't really know what's really going to happen. So I think for House, like, it's just better to say, this person has the majority. Let me see. Okay, and I'm seeing people in the chat just saying what type of politics, what other countries' politics I'm really into. Like, I'm actually into British politics a little bit, Canadian politics. I know a lot about, and there's a lot of different things. So I think that's interesting. Do you prefer people who weren't politicians that stepped in late, like Trump, or like long politicians like Joe Biden? You see, this kind of is what you're trying to ask here is, am I establishment or am I like, do I prefer the outsider point of view? I'm someone who prefers the outsider point of view. I think that after a while, if you become an insider, you're going to get the traditional insider game, which is like sit down, negotiate, wait until the last minute, and then get something done. That's really not what I really like. Well, yeah, I might interview Raphael Warnock on election night. That would be fun. I think Democrats could become progressives by 2040s. I do agree. I think that the Democrat. I think that in the future, like if the Republican Party doesn't get all of their stuff together, we might see a sort of country where we see something like Canada, where even the conservatives in Canada aren't that conservatives. And the liberals in Canada are way further left than we are here in the U.S. Herschel Walker is going to win in 2022. I'm not sure. I mean, Herschel Walker is an interesting candidate. Again, it's going to have to – it's also, country club Republicans who really could really, come out for him. But I think at the end of the day, not going to be as big of a candidate as a lot of people think. I think if he does win, it's going to be very narrowly, at least. Will there be more Democratic U.S. presidents than Republican presidents by 2100? I don't think so. I think that it's actually going to be pretty even. I think what we're going to see in the future is a trend where the country's become so polarized, where it's going to be a one term for a long, long time. And I think it's something that we're going to end up seeing. Have I heard of Anthony Trimino, who is running in California for governor as a Republican? He migrated from Cuba. So I saw you made a video about that. I'm not really as familiar with him. Now, I don't think that that's really going to help him in a state like California. And I think at the end of the day, someone else will probably get the Republican nomination in the state of California to try to unseat Gavin Newsom. Never thought of an NFL player running. There's actually a lot more NFL players and sport athletes that have run. I forget his name. In Texas, he's a congressman. He was a former, I think it's Colin Allred. He is a NFL player. Who else? There's been the fair share of senators and representatives who come from the sports world, so that's not really as surprising. Oops. How old am I? I'm 14. Let's see. Can Trump Jr. run for governor and win? No, I think that's kind of far-fetched. Let me see. So, I think that another thing I wanted to talk about right now is I want to see what you guys think about the issue. Do you guys think that for the Democrats, it's going to be, in a way better if they kind of, go away from Biden and go a little bit more with the Bernie side of the party? Or do you think that it might be more beneficial for them to, go out, win with your establishment, keep the suburbs? So what do you guys think? And I'm seeing someone say, okay, LTP says Trump Jr. is too far right. I mean, surprisingly, I think he is further right than his dad. I think that in the future, I don't think he has a political future per se. He probably can write some books and stuff, but I don't think it's gonna be that big of a thing. This is an interesting question. A while back, Democrats won the North and Republicans won the South. But that's starting to change. In the future, do I think Democrats will start winning the South and Republicans will win the North? I mean, I don't really think so, because I think what really happened there was more of a party ideology shift. I think the Democrats will eventually, will start winning in the South based on the Sun Belt. The Republicans could gain some support up north, but I think in the grand scheme of things, it's mostly going to be basically the Democrats doing better down south, and I think the Republicans are going to have to go elsewhere. There's places they can go. They can go up to Oregon. They have some bases there. They could go up maybe to New Hampshire and places like that. But I think it's not going to be, it's not quite the same party shift I think it's going to happen. The Democratic Party establishment needs to go to give away to the younger generation. There is a big generation gap there, and I completely, wholeheartedly agree. Look at House leadership. I think that's just a great example. House leadership for the Democrats, it's all these 70, 80-year-old people. Well, the Republicans, not to say that their House leadership is fresh out of college, but their leadership at least is a little bit more diverse in age. You have people like Elise Stefanik, who is pretty young. You have people like even McCarthy isn't that old. So I think it's something that is actually very interesting. You hate to say it, but the Democrats will do better with the progressives. Maybe they're gonna have to give some things up. Maybe in certain states like Ohio, maybe progressivism. I don't know what the word of that would be, but being more progressive could help out the Democrats win back. Tyler Kerp asked, "Do you think Trump will run in 2024? He has made his decision, but won't announce it publicly yet." I don't think he will. I think that knowing Trump and Trump being Trump, he will probably end up running. Okay, what I'm getting to is I don't think he should run, but I think just him being Trump, he will run. Now, to the point of him, where would he do? I think he's not going to do like so good. I think at the end of the day, it's probably going to end up falling. He's going to lose the primary, maybe to DeSantis, but who knows? That's actually a very interesting question that we're going to have to see in the future. Who do I think could beat Biden in 2024? Biden's someone who's hard to beat for the Democrats, although as he gets old in age and, a lot of people are starting to get worried about Biden's, mental health. I mean, not to say that Biden has a mental illness, because that's not announced and that's not for sure, and we probably won't know. But I think it's just unfortunate that, he's getting old and, all those things. That's going to be unfortunate for the Democrats. As for who I really think could beat him, I would say right now, my only pick would be Ron DeSantis. Trump wouldn't beat him. Big other candidates wouldn't beat him. Ron DeSantis for now, we will see in the future who emerges. What is my opinion on Puerto Rico statehood? I think Puerto Rico is a state. It should become a state more so than DC. DC statehood, I think, is one of the most bogus claims that I've heard out there. I mean, if you're from DC, I'm really sorry, but I just think that it's not enough to become a state. Well, Puerto Rico actually has a lot more substance to become a state. They've had their long history, as a big state. They have many different cities. They have basic things that just make up a state. They actually have a government, and I think a government in the way that it's more functional in a way than the one in DC. So yeah, Puerto Rico should definitely become a state, and especially now that the Puerto Ricans really want it. I think that they should do it. Let me see. Hey, Joaquin, how are you? PPT, there is a Fox News poll where Trump is leading DeSantis by 40%. Polling data at this... Oh, God. There you go. Something happened. Sorry. I think at this point, polling data at this point in time is going to be something that we can't be too keen on. I mean, it's far ahead. We're still far out, so I'm not sure. So it's something that we should definitely take a look at. Nancy Pelosi says she will retire in 2022. Who should become the next leader of the House Democrats? Maxine Waters, AOC, Jared Golden, Tulsi Gabbard. She's not in the House anymore, but she could run again. Adam Schiff. Okay, here is I'm gonna if this was a multiple choice test, I would make another box and put other. I think it's definitely gonna be Hakeem Jeffries. I don't know if you guys have realized that Hakeem Jeffries is someone who's, he's risen up in the Democratic leadership. He's young, and I think that might be the best way for them to get support. And I think Hakeem Jeffries actually might be the next Speaker of the House, long term, sitting there for 20, 30 years, because again, that's what you do in the House. You sit around and wait until you could someday get on leadership. What's more blue, Arizona or Georgia? So, I really think that it depends. I mean, to a certain extent, I think Georgia's more blue than Arizona. I think it really does come down to that there's a lot more African American vote, and that, blueness in a way is more solidified just because of Stacey Abrams and all of that. So I really think that Stacey Abrams has really made Georgia a bluish state. I mean, it's not that by that much. I mean, it's still winnable for the Republicans if they put in the work. But Arizona is more of a different thing. It's more of country club Republicans, suburban Republicans. They are like, oh, no, let's just vote for Biden. That's more winnable back. And I think in the future, the Republicans will get back Arizona at some point. LTP says Tulsi Gabbard should run as an independent. She's more like a conservative Democrat, like Joe Manchin. I agree with that. I think that the thing with Tulsi Gabbard is that she is very liberal for certain things, but very conservative for others. I think that's actually she's a very interesting figure in my eyes, just because of how she conducted herself during the primaries. Where she is politically, I think is also interesting. So I mean, she should run as independent, but again, she will lose the race. Okay. Do you think Trump could beat Harris? I think that Trump could beat Harris. I think Harris is a pretty beatable candidate. You see, I think Harris is actually someone who's very, very deeply overrated. Like, I cannot stress this enough, that Kamala Harris is just so overrated politically. I mean, her vice presidency, her tenure as vice presidency so far is just a great example of that. She literally flunked that foreign trip when she went to Guatemala and Mexico. She took years to go to the voter and only went after Donald Trump said he was going to go to the voter. All these different things that I think really come down to show that she is not such she wouldn't be a good politician. I think that's left a big sour taste in a lot of Americans' mouth. So yeah, I think that Kamala Harris will definitely, you're going to have a little bit of trouble with that. Okay. It's Ashley FTW ask, when did you think AOC will run for president? I think AOC will run for president 2028 is still too early. I would say she'll probably give her first shot at the presidency, probably 2032, and then try again until she gets a nomination, then lose. Or wins, my bad. But she would probably try from there on. I think Harris wins Michigan, Arizona, and Georgia. Trump wins Nebraska and Pennsylvania, Wisconsin. I mean, that's actually an interesting take. I don't think I completely agree with that. I mean, you can go check out my predictions I have out. But I think it's interesting. Kamala Harris has a lower approval rating than Joe Biden, which isn't good for her 2020 chances. Election watch analysis. First of all, again, I haven't seen you chat in the stream, so welcome back. But I think that one of the big things is that, I mean, if she has lower approval ratings than Joe Biden, of course. I mean, actually, well, I haven't been able to find the polls, her approval polls. Can you guys, I don't know if one of you guys could send me because I've been trying to look for them, but I can't find Kamala Harris lower, the approval rating polls. I think I found some of them, but not completely of them. But yeah, great point. That her approval rating is lower than Joe Biden, and Joe Biden isn't the insane popular guy that Barack Obama was. I think that's a big thing that a lot of people fail to analyze. Let's see. Kamala Harris went to the border, but that was a disaster. Yes, it was. Again, interestingly enough, she went to the border. She did all these things. What ended up happening? Well, essentially, she went to where she was not supposed to. She essentially needed to go to the part of the border where there was a crisis. She needed to go to the Rio Grande Valley in the south. But, I really think that it's somewhere where I think she should have done more research of where she needed to go, and she frankly did not do that. So I think that she needs to go back. She needs to fix her mistake, because that's going to cost her with a lot of voters moving forward. So yeah, let me see. Arizona has no chance for Kamala Harris. I do agree with this because of the border things. Okay, very good question. Do I think presidential candidates should have to disclose their taxes and health records before running? I think they should. I think it's in the interest of the American public for the people to know that. I think it's important. Now, like the big thing I would have against that is that, okay, you're kind of giving away some of the privacy from these candidates, but again, they're running for public office. They're running to be figures in the U.S. politics. So the public should be aware of all the different things about them. Let me see more questions. I think the chat has had a little bit of delay on my end, so I apologize for that. Let me see. Okay, here we go. What states? Okay, I lost it. Here it is. Okay, what states would Biden win if Trump runs, and what would Trump get? That's too long. Basic swing states, I would just say Trump wins Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, maybe Arizona, and Biden wins everything else. Oh, and North Carolina, whatever Trump won in 2020. Let me see. Will the United States become more left or leaning in the next 20 to 50 years? Of course. I think they will. Not to have too much identity politics, but who would be the first woman president? Kamala Harris, Tulsi Gabbard, Elizabeth Warren, Kristi Noem, or Nikki Haley. So for a long time, I was a strong believer that Nikki Haley would be the first woman president. Even if Kamala Harris was the VP and stuff, basing off of what we're seeing now, I think that's out the window. If she runs in 2024 and maybe in the future, I don't think she's gonna, get that position. Nikki Haley's not going to run. Might be between someone like Kristi Noem. I think she probably could be like someone in line. Stacey Abrams, maybe. I don't think that I don't see any Democratic women that have the big potential as we saw Kamala Harris and Nikki Haley have. So we're gonna have to wait on that and see who rises and becomes that possible candidate. Let me see. You think that Florida would win? Okay, he think he would win in Florida. So he says North Carolina. Okay, that's interesting. You live in Texas. There isn't really a border crisis. Well, I mean, the border crisis more closely relates with not really what's happening down in and you can correct me if I'm wrong. It's not really in the cities and things like that where you see it. It's more like with the detention camps and things like that. Who would have a better shot at Arizona, Trump or DeSantis? DeSantis, 100%. Trump loses those voters in Maricopa County because of his way of being. DeSantis doesn't have that baggage in him, so I think that would be interesting to see. Will Texas be blue in 2032? Maybe. I mean, Texas is a state that has the possibility of going blue in the future, but it's really going to depend on who runs and things like that. So maybe. You think Chris Christie wins New York mayoral race? Yeah. Can Trump flip Wisconsin in 2024? Maybe. I think that's a plausible maybe. I think he has the possibility of doing it. Now, the big question is, will he have the support? I think he could have. For him, it's not super difficult to get the support. So, yeah. I think Trump would have never announced he was going to the border. Then Harris, never went or put it off for months. I completely, again, wholeheartedly agree with that. Again, with Harris, it was a media politics. It was a gig. She had to go because then she was gonna seem, oh, it was a war. I'm gonna look like the idiot who didn't go, and Trump beat me to the border. This kind of reminds me to what's actually gonna be happening soon. And I'm actually really excited for this. Well, we already saw one of the space launches where we saw Richard Branson. They literally try to one-up each other, and I think it's the same thing that we're seeing here. Let's see. Yeah, the detention camps are horrible. Now, I think it's actually ironic how the Democrats really were going against Trump for the detention camps, and then they set up their own detention camps. So that's interesting. What swing states do you think Trump would win against Harris by, and by how much? I think that he would win Wisconsin, by around 1%. Pennsylvania by around another 1.5%. Arizona by 1%. Georgia by half a percentage point. So I think that would be interesting. Plus, then you have like Florida and North Carolina, which I think would move further. What then would win in Ohio in 2024? Sherrod Brown. I really think that Sherrod Brown should run for president. He's never going to, because I think that there's really not a spot for him in the Democratic list of people that are going to run for president. But if Sherrod Brown does run for president, trust me, he would win in Ohio. It's his home state, and I think he just perfectly appeals to those people. What's my opinion on the Capitol riots? They were bad. I don't really want to get into it because I know that that's a sensitive topic for YouTube. And YouTube could take down this video or but if they were bad, and I think that they should be investigated to a certain extent. Looking at the history of, do you think the notion of a nation state is dying? We have multinational corporations. Do you think there will be a United States / nations of the world? I think that could actually be something that happens. I mean, what's really going to be the test of that will be how much power do these multinational companies get? Because if the multinational companies get enough power, they could be the leaders of the countries, and they could completely monopolize everything. And trust me, with the way that things are going, with companies like Amazon being insanely rich right now, not completely out of the picture. So I want you to think about that. Both Biden and Harris seem to want to run in 2024. Do you think they will run against each other in a primary? Okay, unless they kind of say, well, we're both gonna run to make sure you guys have an option. But I think that would just be unproductive for the for each other, for the work environment in the West Wing. I don't think it makes sense. Biden will probably decide, okay, we're going to give you the baton. And I think when people elected Joe Biden, I think a lot of people came with the impression it was going to be a one-term thing. So I think out of the two, Harris is more likely to run. Do you think that Kansas will be Democrat by 2050, or at least Republican? I think Kansas is going to stay right where it is, for a bit. I think by then we could start seeing a lot more of Barbara Bollier style candidates. The more liberal, parts of Kansas, end up going to go there, and probably bring that state to those margins. Would I run for a political office one day, and what party would be, assuming they remain the same? So I do hope to run for political office in the future. For what specifically, I don't know. I really want to start off by something local and then move my way up the political chain, or if I have the opportunity, just run for Congress straight away. If the parties stayed like they are right now, just because of where I'm based in Florida, I think it's just in my best interest to win a race. And, I kind of agree with both parties. So, and I agree with the Republican Party on a lot of issues, especially like economic issues, which really helps you to win races. So I would probably run as a Republican. Okay, this question I'm not so okay with seeing in the chat. What is worse, BLM or Capitol riots? I mean, I agree with the BLM riots should be investigated like the Capitol Hill riots, but this is a question that is, both of them are collectively bad. I mean, one of them was more long-term. There was more damage. The other one, we saw, one of the worst insurrections of our country's history, where we saw the democracy of our country really be at stake. I mean, this is a question I like to see people compared. Like, of course, you can't ask which one's worse. I think both of them is bad. I think you should say, are they as bad? Or are they both like the same? I'm not going to answer that question as what was worse. Let me see. Amazon is so rich. I mean, it's insane. This is one of the things I haven't discussed too much in the channel, but I think Amazon should start with a monopolized, antitrust thing, and could get split up. They have Amazon warehouse services or web services, my bad, which pretty much controls the internet. They have, all these e-commerce. They have literally a movie studio. I mean, it's going to be completely insane. If you're running against your own VP, you look weak and incompetent. They would both lose. I agree, and I think in that case that would open the floor for someone to go on and take their primary seat and win. If the pandemic never happened, would Trump have been reelected? 100% yes. And even with the pandemic, he almost got reelected. I think the really big person that really kind of caused Trump to lose the election, other than himself, because he has a lot of blame to it, but I think one of the persons that really set him up for like failure was Anthony Fauci. Not so much because Anthony Fauci was like trying to set him up or anything, which could happen, but I don't think it's that likely. It's just that Anthony Fauci was such a distraction for him and how he regretted or reacted to him that it really caused him to lose support from a lot of suburban voters. That would be cool, LTP, if we were able to debate each other on a debate stage. Would Alaska be Democrat by 2040? Maybe. It depends on how the people in Alaska end up voting. Trump just took the lead in the chat poll. That's interesting. Actually, let me take a look at that. I have to go on to because I'm right now, I'm live streaming through StreamYard, and I can't unfortunately see the poll, and I really want to see the poll because I want to see what you guys are saying in the poll. I can see your chat messages, but I cannot see your chat poll. Let me see how much is that, or let me see. It might be faster if you guys. Yeah, my internet connection is a budget because I'm live streaming, so it slows down my computer. Can you guys tell me what the results are currently in the poll? Who do I prefer, Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk? I think Elon Musk is just a cooler. Oops, hold on. Elon Musk is much cooler. I love Tesla. I think Teslas are cool, and just Elon Musk is such a cool person, in my opinion. Trump or Biden? I would probably vote for Trump because of the economic policies, and I think that Biden was really moving the establishment. And I'll vote for Democrats. I'll vote for Republicans, but I think that economically, I think that was one of the big issues that U.S. was facing, and Trump would probably do a better job with that. What if Ross Perot never dropped out? I was thinking about this morning. I was like, oh my gosh, if Ross Perot actually ended up campaigning, he would have won, because even if he dropped out for a couple months and he still got an insane amount of support. I mean, it was like 20% of the popular vote, so that was insane. Trump got cursed with the virus. I think that the virus was something that was hard for Trump. I think it was like something that ended up affecting him in a certain way. But in another way, it was also a reset for him when he got COVID, that he kind of like had a resurgence in the election. Because I think if it was right before Trump had COVID, he became more sensitive to the issue. He experienced it himself. Right before Trump had COVID, Biden was going to win the election by a blowout. The election got closer indeed because of Trump's COVID diagnosis. Right, I think that I agree with this political playground. Both of these things are going to be impactful. I think that with what we did see with BLM was the rise of the Democratic woke movement, which is just, everyone like protesting, speaking out or whatever. And that really hurt Trump. If BLM would have never happened, I think Trump would have been elected even with COVID. But BLM and COVID, nail in the coffin for Trump. If he had worn a mask and socially distanced and get vaccinated, Trump would have won. So Trump did say to get vaccinated. He was like the first person on that. If he was more sensitive to the issue at first, I would say that he would definitely won the race. I think it was just more of a sensitivity issue. I want to be a politician. That's cool. I mean, I know it's great to see so many younger people be interested in the politician job. I mean, it's a job that's become so dirty in a way, because politicians have been there forever and they're being so dirty with how they. So I think that's actually very interesting, and I actually really agree with that. Trump 53, Biden 47. Oh God, there we go. That's the current poll results. That's great. Do you think that Dr. Fauci should testify before Congress? I mean, I think that he definitely should be testifying towards Congress, but not really because of the mask and stuff. It's more about what I think he should testify about is those messages that came out. I think he might know a little bit more about the origin of COVID. And I think moving forward, I think that forget about research, forget about anything, because we already know what we have to do. What we really have to focus on is where did COVID come from? And I think that the hypothesis for the lab leak has really, gained some, popularity. So, and with information and stuff. So I think that's something that should definitely be taken a look at. Is Elon Musk dating Grimes? I think they're actually married. Okay. Ben Shapiro or Cenk Uygur? Okay. This sounds weird because I said I really like Trump, but between Ben Shapiro and Cenk Uygur, I like Cenk Uygur a little bit more. He's just a little bit more personable in a way. And like Cenk Uygur, in a way sort of reminded me of, again, this is a bad comparison because I mean, if you compare Secular to this person, you're gonna say, what are you saying? My favorite person of all time, like, you know, like podcasters, well, you're not podcasters, but it's Joe Rogan. I mean, you can never go wrong with Joe Rogan. Politically, I mean, he's very down the middle, and he has some great, I mean, great views like with pop culture. So I mean, I think St. Uger is more like that than Ben Shapiro, more approachable in that way. I checked the betting markets. Third place, Ron DeSantis. Second, oh, thank you. I'm barely first place. In the betting markets for 2024. Who would have known? Let me see. Trump getting a virus is a myth. I mean, I actually might agree with that. That who knows? Maybe it was a myth, but I highly doubt it was a myth. But even if it was, it was political luck for Trump. PPT, if you were to run for president, would you run as a Republican? I already kind of said this. I would run as a Republican because I wouldn't run as an independent because I would lose a race. You guys might think you're crazy, but as an independent voter, I liked Hillary more than I liked Joe. I just feel like Hillary had a strong debate performance. I'm gonna 100% agree with, like, I really liked Hillary Clinton, but I mean, and it especially compared to Joe Biden, her debates were more interesting as a candidate. Her campaign was more interesting. I mean, Joe Biden, even if he had a regular sort of campaign, like even his campaign rallies in the primaries were boring. They were like super boring. So Hillary Clinton I actually really liked, and I think she actually was a better voter. So I agree with you, Ed. So you're not crazy. Or if people call you crazy, then I'm crazy too. Oh God, I think I'm far behind in the chat. How different would the world be if Gore won in 2000? No 9/11, continued positive surpluses, no Iraq. Okay, so 9/11 I think would have happened regardless of anything, because the real reason for 9/11, you start getting into it, was because of things that happened previously to Bush's administration. Bush was just happened to be there when it happened. So yeah, I think that, yeah. I mean, 9/11 would have happened. I think with Gore as president, we probably wouldn't have gone to Iraq. Global warming and regulation of internet companies. So yes, I think those things would have certainly happened. I want to also ask you guys about this. This is going back into retrospect. Do you guys remember about the net neutrality, and what did you guys think about net neutrality at the moment? Did you think that net neutrality was a positive thing, or do you think net neutrality was it was like a bad thing for competition? Everyone who voted for Trump is a racist, therefore I'm racist. No. First of all, well, I can't say no one because there's racist people on both sides of the aisle. So I don't agree with that, and I'm not racist at all. And yeah, I want that stereotype about Trump voters to get taken out because I think it's just, not a good thing. Trump has extended his lead in the poll. Interesting. Trump 45, Biden 55, and Biden 45. You're looking for running for office. That's actually cool. I mean, the best way to start for running for office is running locally. There's actually a lot of like districts and like places locally that are looking for people to run for office because people don't want jobs, whether it be a council member, some elected positions in some cities or towns. Even in your own town, in your little small town, you can make an impact. What if COVID happened, BLM happened, but Trump wasn't impeached in 2019? What would Trump wouldn't know? Trump would still lose because the 2019 impeachment didn't really have a big part in the they didn't really have a big part in the this election. And I think more than anything, 2019 impeachment for Trump was a complete witch hunt. They really tried to pull out that impeachment out of nowhere. Well, part of it, because part of it was based on the Ukrainian cause. But yeah, that was a witch hunt. So that really didn't have a big impact. I think the stream is going to end Political Playground at around, at 9:30. I'm going on for an hour and a half. Would I have betted in the betting markets? Maybe, but I mean, if I was old enough, but maybe. I mean, I don't think that you should like waste your money on that, because then if you lose the money. GPU should have never gone against the neutrality. They threw away an easy winning issue. Okay, I agree with this. You know, when I remember that the day that net neutrality was about to be like banned, it was like the world falling against the FEC commissioner who voted like against it. And I remember that it was like this horrible thing. And this is how they explained it. So Burger King, I remember, this is the way I remember it. Burger King had put out an ad on YouTube, and it kind of explained it using Whoppers. And I think that was actually interesting. So if you do not know what net neutrality is, I would just Google like Burger King net neutrality, and maybe that could help you understand it. It's that, but with the internet. Do you think fart news organizations is telling the truth about viewer ratings? I'm not sure. I mean, I haven't really looked into that, but maybe. Would I voted for Clinton or Trump? So if this was 2016, I would have definitely voted for Hillary Clinton. I was such a Hillary Clinton fan. Hillary Clinton, I thought, was actually a very good she was a very good politician. I really liked her, and I was actually really bummed out when she lost. Is QAnon real or an embarrassment? I think it's in the middle. I'm not sure if QAnon is real or not. It's a conspiracy theory. It could be an embarrassment, but who knows? The political world is so dark, and you know, I think as we have to think about something else. Power is like so controlled that sometimes you're never gonna find out. I think it's very far-fetched that it was true, but like I'm not completely 100% ruling out. I'm gonna leave that 1% there just in case it is true, and then I don't look like an idiot and say, well, this is 100% not true. That's why I say with most things, unless it's been completely proved otherwise, I don't go against it. You're inspired to your biased election channel. Okay, Raul, go ahead and do that. Do you think Joe Biden would get impeached sometime in his term? Of course not. Even if the House had the majority to impeach him, you're still gonna have what the Trump Republicans liked, were the rhinos, the you know, those type of House members who wouldn't vote for impeachment. So yeah, impossible. No, I don't think he would get impeached. Do you think that former FCC Commissioner Ajit Pai will run for president in 2024? Yes, of course, he will definitely run for president. Of course not. He would get like destroyed in that race, and it's not going to even be funny. So you're okay with Muslims being banned? That's racist. Well, I don't think it's not racist in my eyes. It's just an immigration policy. Look, if you close down your borders for a certain reason, I mean, I guess that in a way, like, there's flight bans everywhere, and I think that Trump administration in a way was worried. I mean, that ban was like very like, okay, there's like the two immigration. So I think that's a little bit more like edgy. Like, I still wouldn't call it racist. But the one on the southern border where everyone was going insane, the wall, the everything, and everyone was going completely insane. I was like, well, how serious is this? Because, you know, offering protection for your country doesn't mean that you're like, that you're trying to, you know, be racist. So I think that's a very big misconception a lot of people have. Let me see. Do you think the Green Party, Libertarian Party, and the Constitution Party should fuse all together to a Libertarian Party? We have a major third party. Maybe, but I mean, again, you would never get a Green Party to agree with the Constitution, or more likely Libertarian that is more well-known. So yeah, that's a little far-fetched. Will South Carolina be Democratic by 2024? Maybe. I'm not 100% sure, but that's a possible maybe. Who does Canada like better for their country? I mean, this is an easy question. All of U.S. allies, no matter what you think about it, are going to prefer Biden. Biden is just in a certain way more of a ally type president than Trump was. Trump was out for the U.S. And I think that in a way that really hurt him because the way that it was seemed like, oh, we don't care about our allies. Our allies are important, but I think the U.S. should be more important first to us. Interesting question here. What are my thoughts on gerrymandering? I think we should have a coalition type system which gives reps to states based on a state voted percentage. So the redistricting and gerrymandering, I think redistricting comes after the census, and that's like the lines are actually not drawn by them. But I think that the lines should definitely be drawn in an unpartisan way. I think the district should just make sense. But again, gerrymandering is used politically by both sides. As long as it is used by both sides, which it is perfectly fine. What do I think the greatest nation in history is? Okay, if you go back way back, I'm going to say that the best nation in history, just because of their military prowess, was the Macedonians, pretty much the Greeks, in with Alexander the Great. I think that's like a great example of a good, expansive civilization state. You're thinking of moving to Canada or Portugal in the future. That's interesting. You know, Canada is actually a cool country, and I actually want to go there. And moving, I think it's a cool country to live. In Portugal, I actually love Portugal. It's actually somewhere I want to go. Portugal, I actually speak Portuguese, so that's also pretty fun. So yeah. Why do I think Trump was good for business? So in a certain way, I think that the big thing was that he brought certain jobs back to the U.S. You know, we were talking about Ross Perot earlier in the stream, and one of the things that I think really helped out Ross Perot was that he saw the potential threat of China from way back. So he did good at getting the Chinese, like the war kind of back on our side. It's more on our side of the aisle. But yeah, and then but with the farmers, there was a certain point there. But I think generally speaking, in the long term, it was gonna end up helping us. NAFTA 2.0 or the North American Trade Agreement. I think that's how he called it. No, I forgot what he called the. I think it was North America. No, that's NAFTA before. Besides the point. Or the Canada-Mexico, Canada, U.S. Mexico Canada, whatever. That agreement was positive for the country. So yeah, let's see. Canada has their borders closed. Canada actually has really tough COVID restrictions right now, and they have their polls closed. Polls closed. My political brain's really thinking right now. They have their borders closed because they really are trying to be safe from COVID. Who do you support for Florida governor in 2022? I'm gonna have to say that I agree with most Floridians here. I would support Ron DeSantis just because of how he has handled this pandemic. He's done an exceptional job of keeping us open. We've been open for a year, where many states in California are just now opening. So, I think it's something that's been great for DeSantis. And like, I know that I've been lucky for living in Florida, and I haven't really had to experience the long-term pandemic that a lot of people have had to experience. Who would be the best out of those three? That's a hard question. I mean, in the present day and age, Martin Luther King would probably win. If it was between Abraham Lincoln and George Washington, I'm not sure. You have to go back and look at where they would fall today. China's still a threat, but when you place tariffs, American exports are hurt. Of course they're hurt. I mean, I think that's a big thing. But what did the tariffs do? They came in and said, well, the things that we're consuming, because we can't forget, we as a country also consume things. Well, the things we consume, at the end of the day, they're being made from outside, and we're paying, the Chinese government to, bring our stuff here. So I think that the tariffs more than anything helped companies move back. Huge. That's another big reason. Tesla has built a factory in China, but they're still building a lot of factories here in the U.S. So things like that have, shied companies away from building things over there compared to here. Ron DeSantis or Donald Trump, who do I like better? I like Ron DeSantis better, 100%. New Mexico just opened on July 1st. I mean, I think that's interesting. I think that with the COVID things, I think a lot of governors, they didn't look at the COVID thing with the science. They waited off a whole month and a half after if you're vaccinated, you're good. So I think that's something that's interesting. Fun fact, I've been streaming for 78 minutes and Biden is 78 years old. Thank you, Political Playground. That's a very interesting comment. Let's Talk Policy says, I think DeSantis will barely win in Florida in 2022, but might even lose barely. The reason is because Charlie Crist is a strong Democrat who won in Florida during Obama's term. Okay, but Charlie Crist, we have to remember he is a completely different person than he was when he won in 2008. Wrong. 2010? 2006. Rick Scott got elected. 2014. Right. That would be 2006. Okay, I'm confused, but whatever. The point is that Charlie Crist, he could do better in Tampa Bay, but other than that, he wouldn't really do that well. Why has the vaccine become so politicized? In Vermont, 66% of people who voted for Biden, 66% of people are vaccinated. In Wyoming, 27% of people voted for Biden, and 27% of people are vaccinated. I'm going to tell you why. Oops, wrong way. This right here. This is why it's so politicized. Trump instilled with certain views that, or a lot of Trump supporters with big followings instilled the, don't get vaccinated because they're tracking us, and that crazy mentality. And you know what that caused? That essentially caused a lot of people to be misinformed about the vaccine, and then all this political craziness. So people follow who they want to follow, and I think Trump is that. Okay, vaccine passport thoughts. I personally wouldn't mind if other countries accepted it, and I wouldn't have to quarantine. I 100% agree with that. With the international travel part, I think vaccine passports are important for international travel. For domestically, I think it's not okay if you have a vaccine passport, separating people. No. If you have herd immunity, which, people could still get COVID, I understand. But with the numbers so low as they are right now, it's not worth it. And you're going to be getting people out when they could be going out anyways, just to be safe. With their mask and stuff, the risk of transmission while out in public is not that big. I think a lot of people fail to, remember that the big reason a lot of people got COVID was because they had close interactions with someone with COVID. A party, they were in close proximity at work. So I think it's something that would be interesting. Which place is better for business, U.S. or Canada? U.S. 100%. Who would you support for POTUS in 2024? Trump versus Harris, Trump, DeSantis, or versus Harris, DeSantis? I don't like Kamala Harris, so for that reason, I would go with the Republicans. Yeah, I'm going to say this. I support getting vaccinated. If you have not yet been vaccinated and you are eligible to, go out and get vaccinated. I got vaccinated. I got my Pfizer vaccine right when I was eligible to, and that actually made me more comfortable going out and things like that. I'm not having to wear a mask anymore. That was nice. So, yeah. I think they should try. Okay, here's the thing with Johnson & Johnson vaccine. I think the problems with it are being exaggerated. I don't think there are as many problems. It's just the media, exaggerating a little bit. Can the Republicans flip governorship in Michigan in 2022? I don't think so. Gretchen Whitmer is a little bit somewhat too popular to get the race. So I think at the end of the day, Gretchen Whitmer probably is going to hold on very narrowly. You're 10, so you can't get the vaccine. So you're going to have to wait. Am I pro-choice or pro-life? For obvious reason, I don't think this is my place to decide. So in the issue, but more in the pro-choice under most circumstances. Of course, not when the baby's about to be born, but up to a certain point, it should be a woman's choice. Why don't I like Kamala Harris? Well, I just think that Kamala Harris she laughs about everything in a way I don't like, and I don't think she's as professional as a politician. And as a person, I like my politicians to be a little bit more serious, while still being, able to connect with the American public, because they're going to have to go through hard conversations. Do you imagine Kamala Harris sitting in a meeting with Vladimir Putin and just laughing off everything? I don't think that would not be good. Let's see. Yeah, you're 13 and you have not gotten the vaccine. What are you waiting for? Go out and get vaccinated so you can, ditch the mask. And, it's just better for everyone. And another good thing with vaccines is that there's a lot of places that are offering some perks for getting vaccinated, just if you didn't know. Do I like Joe Biden? I mean, I'm okay with Joe Biden. What I don't really like about him is just how he's just uncharismatic in a way. Yeah. Okay. So now that we're kind of I touch on Putin a little bit, I personally think that Putin is one of the smartest political figures in the world. Doesn't mean he's good, and doesn't mean that he's like up to like the best of things, but he's actually criminally smart. Every time he meets a U.S. president, he knows that they won't be there for long. Yeah, of course. I think that one of the big things for Trump was that he was able to have the foreign policy that he would be, well, if I can't really like belittle them, I'm just gonna be like them. And he appealed to them and kind of he appealed to them. He became friends with them because, and I think because he had to, because another way they're gonna be fighting. I think that's the best way to get with our like get some better relations with our adversaries. You know, like they say, keep your friends close, but keep your enemies closer. So I think it's something that'd be interesting. If I lived in Great Britain, I would definitely probably vote conservative because how centrist it is compared to like the U.S. parties, and also the Liberal Party is too far, or no, the Labour Party is too far to the left. Okay, are the vaccine side effects safe? Of course they are. I mean, they are. I mean, I got my vaccine. I was completely fine. I had a minor headache, but that was pretty much it. Do I think Newsom should be recalled? Absolutely not. Why is he getting recalled? Because of code? It doesn't make sense in my eyes. And plus, forget about recalls. He's not going to get recalled. They don't have the votes. Let's see. Oops. Let's see my camera. There we go. Who would I prefer as my president? Putin or Kim Jong-un? Oh, 100% Putin. I mean, Kim Jong-un is a dictator, so I don't know anyone who would like Kim Jong-un better. Putin provides stability, but when he dies, there might be political instability and nuclear power and a power vacuum. Of course, and I think this is why it's important for Putin to set up a handpicked successor for him. Trust me, if Russia has a power vacuum, forget about it. We're going to be unsafe. Do I think that Russia stole the 2016 election? No, I think they had influence, like the mainstream media had influence in the 2020 election, but not they didn't steal the election. You know, I think that a lot of people fail to realize that outside factors influence elections, and I think the politicians made this huge big deal about it when they really shouldn't have. Progressive Rising, is that the party of Sanchez in Spain? What swing state would go to who if DeSantis versus Biden? I have a prediction of that up on my channel, so go check it out. Which party would I vote for in Japan? I'm not sure, but I really like the party that's currently in power. I like, well, Shinzo Abe is no longer prime minister, but yeah, I like Shinzo Abe. Yeah, my live streams. It could end soon. If you have to go, I mean, you can go. You don't have to stay the whole time. But I really appreciate for those of you that are going to leave now. I'm actually just might actually end it at this point. So, thank you all for all of you for coming. I see a lot of you. I mean, shout out to LTP, to Progressive Rising, Political Playground, Matthew Tar, Narendra Panapitia. Sorry about that. For staying here, Dragon Man 123. Matthew Tor for just coming in, for coming. Those are the people I'm seeing in the chat right now. New Secrets, Soapmore, of course. Thank you guys so much for coming in the live stream. I think I'm going to start doing these weekly, if not every 2 weeks, maybe alternated with a podcast with UEP. I don't know, but whatever I do, I'll let you guys know down in the community tab. So always stay tuned for that. Thank you guys so much for watching, and goodbye.